In this program, I'm going to look at an HTML page with some JavaScript, and it's going to step through one of these geometry problems. So you're supposed to use just like a ruler and a compass to construct a figure, and in this case, a pentagon, a five-sided shape, and regular, so all the sides are the same. Okay, and then I'm going to show you. And so I wrote on all the JavaScript side, the interesting part is that I used a generator function and this sort of yield keyword to allow me to have sort of like one big function, but to have all these stopping points along the way. Because with these, when you're doing these geometric constructions, there are lots of steps. So you want your user to be able to see each step and think about each step and what was done. But I didn't want to write like a million little functions or a million ifs. So I used this generator function with yields. Okay. So here we go. So let's just walk through relatively quickly the compass creation, generation, construction, and then I'll show you the JavaScript. Okay, so we start with a line, get out your ruler, draw a line, pick 2 points on the line. And so we have, this is the same button. It's going to go through all the steps, and I have a little description of each step. Make 2 points on the line. Get out your compass and draw a circle where one point is the center and the other point is on the circle, and then switch and do it the other way around, and then make the connect those where they cross, identify those points, and then we're going to draw a line between those points. And so now we finally have our original line, our 2 points, and a perpendicular bisector. Okay. Now we're going to move to that point in the middle. So every time I sort of pick a point, I make a new drawing where I'm sort of indicating that point. There's my point in the center. And now next I'm going to make a circle with that point as the center. So 2 points, perpendicular bisector, use that center point now and draw. And so now the blue was just to be able to get the center. Now we have the red. Most everything's going to take place within this red circle. And we want to sort of next sort of bisect these two horizontal radii. And so with that same compass setting, we draw 2 more circles centered at the original points. And those are these dashed reds. And now we're going to take the point where the dashed red and the solid red meet. So that's the next line. So I made those points red. There they are. And now I'm going to connect them with the vertical. So I'm sort of bisecting the radii. And so I made those green and dashed. And I'll show you the sort of dashing stuff when we get over to the JavaScript. So now, okay. Now I'm going to identify those points where we just cross these new perpendicular bisectors. And so we have those points, and now we're going to draw circles around that point. Okay, so draw green dash circles with half the radius of the original circles. So I had the big red circle, and now I have the green circles have half the radius of the red. Okay, I added one magenta point. Okay, so once this figure gets complicated, it's hard to see what's going on. That's why I like this sort of stepping through, and I'll show you the JavaScript that gave you that. But I added one magenta point at the bottom. This time they're not. There is a corresponding one up here that I will eventually use, but I'm not ready for it yet. So I'm going to bring in just this lower one, and because the pentagon is going to start at the top. So the top of the pentagon and the bottom of the pentagon are sort of different. Okay, so I picked a point at the bottom of the circle, and now I drew from that magenta point at the bottom through my green circles and extended. Okay, and then I'm going to be interested in these points on the sort of the farther from the magenta point, where the magenta line crossed the green circle, and I drew that point and its corresponding one on the other side, its reflection. So I just drew these magenta points where the magenta line passes through the green circle on the sort of far end. And then I used the magenta point in the middle as the center of a circle. And then I wanted those 2 points to be on the edge of my circle. And so I had this great big mama magenta circle. And I'm interested in where the magenta circle crosses the red circle next. So now I keep switching colors to help. I don't know if it's helping. It certainly doesn't help if anybody's colorblind. Sorry about that. But I added these cyan points where the magenta circle crossed the original red circle. Those are going to be points on the pentagon. I go back to my magenta point at the bottom and those magenta lines coming out of it. And this time I'm going to the closer points of crossing through the green circles. And I made those points orange. So there are my 2 new orange points. I'm going to make an orange circle with the same center of that magenta center at the bottom, and an orange circle going around it, going through the orange points. And so I'm going that big magenta circle was to the outside of the green circles. Now I'm going to the closer part of the green circle, and that's this orange circle. And then I identify again in cyan where the orange circle crosses the red circle, identify those points. And so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 cyan points. I go back to where the red circle crosses the bisector, and that, which I could have drawn long ago, but that is my 5th point in my pentagon. So now I have all the 5 points of my pentagon. And finally, I just draw all the lines of my pentagon. So that is my construction of a pentagon. It's not mine. Where I have a comment here somewhere. It was page 17 in the book Mathographics by Robert Dixon in Dover Publications. I don't even know that it's his, but that's where I got it from, his book. Okay. So I have a bunch of so let's first talk about the generator function. Okay, so I have a button up here, and I just did a very sort of old-fashioned, straightforward on click, and I'm calling a function add to SVG. I'm going to add something to my scalable vector graphics element, which is here and originally empty. And that function, I have, so I have a function down here, but you see, I added when I'm declaring the function, I added the star. So that's making it a generator function. And I said add to was this generator function. And then I made sort of an object. I used that function to make an object, I'll say. And so I have a generator object, and then one of the main methods of a generator object is this next method. And so I will have these stopping points, and next will move me, and it will keep track of them for me. And next will move me to the next stopping point. And the stopping points are indicated by the keyword yield, which we will see is in the add to generator function. Okay, so here was the function just generically called. So I didn't want to do anything fancy here in the onClick. So the onClick is just calling add to SVG, which is just a normal function, but then that normal function is using this object, which came from that generator function, and it's using the next method of that object. Okay. So I have a console log, so it probably says generator function a million times. Okay. Or maybe just once because of the yield. Okay. So again, function star, so it's not a normal function. Add to is just its name. Here's my original line. So this is just the code. All that is the code in SVG for adding that original horizontal line. And then I said yield. So that's what, if I refresh the page, all of this code to generate all the pieces is just in one big generator function. But with these yields, that's what gives me the stopping point. So not a bunch of ifs, like if I got this far, then do that. Not a bunch of separate functions, but a generator function with these yields. And so I drew the horizontal line, and then I said yield. And then pick the 2 points on the line and yield. And so that's the basic idea of the generator function. Something and then yield, something and then yield. And then these functions then know when they're done, when there's no more things. So it didn't necessarily pop up an error or anything like that when I got through the entire diagram. I mean, I said done here, but it's not. I want to look at the console. Is it giving me any error messages when I sort of draw the whole thing and I'm done? There's nothing more for it to be called, but that's not an error. It's just that the generator function has reached its conclusion. Okay. Anything else I want to show you? I have lines. How you make a line, x1, y1, x2, y2, draw it with a stroke. I've made, my points are really just little circles with a small radius, so a cx, a cy, center x, a center y, and a little r. And then when I'm making the points, I fill them in. And when I'm making the circles, it's also a circle, a center x, a center y, a radius. Then I usually have no fill and have a stroke. And then here is the sort of dashing. So it is this is sort of a length unit. And if I'm dashing, I have like 2 where I fill in and 2 where it's empty. So that is, I can have a longer dash if I put in 5s or 10s. These would be longer dashes. This is my blue, so that was a fairly small. It's almost dotted. So having 2 small numbers here gives you the idea of dotted. If you have longer ones like 5, 5, so down here, those are when I get to the red circles, I have a solid red circle and then I have a dash red circles, but I have this dash array. I have longer things here. So the blue, because it was small numbers in the dash array, comes across as dotted. Because I had larger numbers in the array for the red circles, it came across as dashed. And then in the green, I kind of have a longer array. See if I can find that in the here. I have a 5222. And so it's sort of fill in space, fill in space. And so I have something long, a 5, and then a little bit of space, and then fill in a little bit, and then another space. So this is sort of a dash dot line. So that green line is sort of a dot dashed, the green around the circles. Not the green of the vertical, but the green around the circles is a sort of a dot dash. And I could have made them thicker by changing the width, but I didn't do that. And then again, and everything was lines and circles, and some of the circles were very small, and I called them points, and other circles were larger and not filled in, and those are the ones I kind of call circles. But it was really, in terms of SVG, just circles and lines. Okay, that's this one. That's what I wanted to show you. Thank you much for your attention.